Welcome to this first webinar in the Alumni Career Development Series. I'm Pernilla Tellmark and I will talk about personal branding today. But first of all, I would like to introduce myself shortly. I work at Career Services at the School of Economics and Management. And at Career Services, we support all students in the process of finding out what you want to do when you graduate. And we do that through individual career coaching, but also giving workshops or interview training. Today's topic is my personal brand. Because when we look for a job today, the importance of our personal brand is something that you will probably hear a lot about. But the question is, what is a personal brand? And why is it important? And what can I do to strengthen my personal brand? First of all, we all already have a brand, whether we like it or not. Every interaction we make, whether it's in real life or a post we make on LinkedIn, is part of our personal brand. So in a way, it's how we appear to the world. It's how others perceive you and how they will talk about you. Friends, colleagues, people you don't know. It's what they think about when they hear your name. So in a way, you can say that it's your professional reputation. Or, as some say, your personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. So the question is, what do you want others to say about you when you leave the room? And then, why is it important? I mean, should we care about how others perceive us? Well, we live in a high-paced society today where working life is very much about short meetings. We are visible to each other. So what people will say about you, if they will talk good about you, that will probably help you to success. So I would say that on today's job market, your personal brand is important, and it is something that you should consider and think about. And your brand is your skills, your experiences, your personality, everything, what motivates you, all these things is part of your personal brand. And your brand should be a reflection of who you really are. I often hear that people talk about building a personal brand. But I think that the most important thing is finding and anchoring your personal brand. Finding out who you really are, what your skills are, and then being able to communicate that in an interesting and credible way. That's how you can work with your personal brand. And you need to start here. There is no other way. We need to start with ourselves, to do that self-inventory, to find out, what am I passionate about? What are my unique skills? Who do I want to be professionally? Try to see your professional me, so to say. And how do we do that? How do we find out who we are? Well, I would say that it's a process that we need to work with all the time during our lives, because we develop. I know more today than I did yesterday. So you do that through reflecting. Also, a good tip is to keep a diary focused on professional skills. So try to think about each day, so what skills did I use today? Or what professional skills did I see someone else using today that I would like to develop? Talk to people, ask for feedback. Because we may know, or we may think that we know ourselves, but the truth is that to really know who we are, we also need to get information from others. As I said, our personal brand is how others perceive us. And we are the only ones knowing ourselves or seeing ourselves from this angle. Everyone else sees me from another perspective. So I really need that information as well to fully understand who I am. Let's just take an example. Have you ever heard your voice recorded? And how did you feel? Well, I sometimes get to hear my voice recorded and I don't like it. Every time I think, oh, it sounds so strange. There must be something wrong with the recording. And then people around me, my friends, they say, no, that's how you sound. It's because I hear my voice from the inside and everyone else listens to my voice from the outside, and it probably doesn't sound the same. So that's why we need feedback from others to really understand who we are. So in this self-inventory process, it's about reflecting, but also asking for feedback. And sometimes I meet students and alumni and they tell me, well, the problem is that I don't know what I'm good at. But I would say that you already have so much experience that you may not think about. And you have developed so many skills that you may not think about. Sometimes you tend to think that I only need relevant work experience to be able to apply for this job. But of course, we can constantly develop, and we have skills that we have used in one situation that we can use and transfer into another situation. So a tip is to read your own CV and identify skills and also good examples. For example, you see here, if you have worked as a waiter or a waitress when you were studying, you've probably developed customer service skills, communication skills. You probably handled stress or solved problems. So this is really a good way to find out and visualize your skills that you have developed and used. So reading your CV with a focus on what skills have I used and developed? What did that specific job require? That's a tip. This is another way to prepare for today's job market. It is to find out what employers value. What skills are they looking for? And when you look at job ads or when you talk to people within companies or hiring managers, there are some skills that are always highly valued, no matter position or industry, like problem solving, communication skills, but also intercultural understanding, which I see more and more. And that is something I would like to highlight, because I suppose that many of you, alumni listening to this, have been studying together with people from different countries, for example. And then you definitely, I'm sure that you developed intercultural communication skills, which is something you should absolutely value and talk about. And what we also see is self-awareness, being flexible and adaptable since we live in a changing world, and being a team player. And self-awareness, that is exactly what we're talking about right now when we talk about the personal branding. Because to get to know who you are and being able to communicate that is important. We hire people we understand, people we trust, and people we believe in. So next step will be to find your story. Because now first you work with the self-assessment, trying to find out who you are, finding out what skills you have. And then it's time to carve your story. What story are you going to tell? And you need to boost yourself when it comes to working with your personal brand. So next step would be, first you read your CV, now present it to someone. read it out loud to someone and elaborate on what you actually did, whether it was a job or something you did while studying, something you've done voluntarily. Try to really find out and explain to someone, this is what I dealt with. This is the situations I handled. And also try to identify your unique skills. Sometimes we tend to forget those skills that others see in us. So once again, we need feedback. Try to think about when someone approaches you and asks for a question or support, what is that normally about? Because that says something about us. That is probably because they find that you have a specific skill that they value. That's why they approach you with a specific question. You probably approach some of your friends when you need help with being creative, solving a problem. Someone else maybe when you just need to talk, you need someone to listen to you, and so on. Because you know that these friends of yours, they have that specific skill. So try to think about that for a while. That is actually a really good reflection to make, to get to know and find out strengths you have that you may not see yourself. So just take some time today to reflect about if a friend, a colleague comes to you for support, what is that normally about? So what skills should I highlight when I talk about my unique skills and what others value with me? And also, of course, what are your top 3 strengths? If you get that question, what do you normally answer? I'm sure that you have so many different strengths and skills. And when we look for jobs, we need to be relevant to talk about the strengths and the skills that we would use in this specific situation. Next step then. What do you want your personal brand to help you accomplish? Because if you know that, then you could be more relevant in what you highlight and what you communicate. And I suppose for you, listening to this, either you're a student and you're about to enter the job market, or you're an alumni about to take your next step on the job market. And if you're a student, you would probably talk about why you chose the specific education, and also, of course, about the skills you have. But also, don't forget to talk future. Talk about how you want to use your knowledge and your skills on the job market, how you want to contribute. Talk about your career philosophy. That's interesting for the ones recruiting to listen to. If you're an alumni and you are about to take your next step on the job market, then of course you would talk about the experience you have and how you can use that in your next job, but also why you want to take a new step on the job market. And if you want to take a new direction, if you want to find another kind of job, another position, or in a new industry where you don't have as much experience, then you should talk about the motivation. Why do you want to take this new step? But also, don't forget to talk about transferable skills. Because I'm sure that you have skills that you used in your job or in other situations that you can also use in a new situation, in this new job. So try to understand the new job you're aiming at and also what skills you can use. So talk about your transferable skills. And then it's about telling your story. Once you found it, you're starting to carve out your story, then it's your turn to tell it. And remember, you can't be everything to everyone. Sometimes we want to tell people that we know so much, and we could do everything, but for others to understand who you are and what you can do for them, you need to find some kind of focus. And you need to find your keywords that you would like to highlight on the job market. But when you tell your story, don't just talk about what you want to do and what skills you have. Also talk about how you want to do things, how you use your skills, and why. And is there a way to tell others the transformation you can create in their organization or in their lives? Then that's a really good way to tell a story, because then you involve other ones in your story. Let me just give you an example. I can take myself as an example, being a career coach. How can I tell others what I do? Or not just what I do, but also how and why. So as a career coach, I empower students to identify their professional strengths and envision a career plan so they can communicate how they create value and land their dream job. That's a way to use this method to say not just what I do, but also how I do it and the result that it will make, or the transformation for, in this case, the students. And don't be afraid to use power words like create, develop, manage, generate. Use those words because they will show what you actually did. So see if there is anything on your LinkedIn profile, for example, that you can change already today. Maybe you can use new words. Maybe there is another way to tell your story. And then also let other people tell your story. Because as I said in the beginning, your personal brand is what others will say about you when you leave the room. So then make it easy for them to tell your story. If you live your brand, if you create positive impact when you meet people, that is a good thing. That's what people will remember. We live in this world, high-paced world, with a lot of brief meetings. And what we remember from meetings when we met people, it's not exactly what they said. It's more about how they made you feel. That's what we remember. So think about how you can create positive impact when you meet people. And also, constantly try to connect with others. Ask questions, be curious, network. That's what networking is about. It's about building relationships. It's about approaching people, being curious, showing that I'm interested in listening to you. And also, ask for help if you need help. Tell people that you are looking for a new job or that you are about to take your next step. Tell people about that so that they can help you. People like to help. And also be helpful. If you may connect someone with a person you know, then that's a good thing. If you help someone out, I'm sure that they will be glad to help you if they can. So tell your story and also let other people tell your story. And we are visible to each other. We ask for references. We Google each other. So we also need to consider how we can create a consistent personal brand on different social media platforms. And there, the best tip is to use keywords. Since it's search engine optimized, we need to think about how do I want to be searchable? What words do I want to be searched on? So try really to think about those keywords and use them so that people will find you. And we do ask for references today. As I said, we hire people we like. We hire people we understand, people we believe in, and we ask for references. People I know would ask me, I see that you have this person in your LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile, or in your LinkedIn network. Could you tell me something about that person? And maybe I would refer just to a short meeting we had, because we do give each other references from quite brief meetings. This is a question that I very often get. But how do I stand out from the crowd? Don't I use the same keywords as everyone else? But I would say the only way to stand out from the crowd is actually to be yourself. This is so true. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. It's about finding out who you are, staying true to that. Keep telling your story. That's how we stand out from the crowd. We are all unique. We have our own unique fingerprint, but we can't just show that when people ask us. But the best thing is to try to find out as much as you can about yourself, and try to provide as many examples as you can when you talk about skills or how you deal with things. And I would also challenge you to challenge yourself, because when we are about to take a next step on the job market, it always involves getting out of our comfort zone. Someone said that a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. And it's true. I mean, we need to take a step out of that zone, whether it's just calling someone we don't know, approaching someone we don't know, looking for a job in a new sector, or just sending a message to somebody we don't know. So try something new today. Do something new. Find another way when you go home today. Update your LinkedIn profile with new words, maybe those power words we talked about. Or send a message to someone you would like to connect with and tell them, I'm really interested in what you are doing, and I would love to connect and share network with you. Use the alumni network. You are an alumni from the school, and you probably know that if a student approaches you or another alumni, you share something, you have something in common, and then it's easier to develop that relationship and to support each other. And as I said, feedback is important, so ask someone today for feedback. This is the last picture. I would like to summarize by starting from the beginning with the first impression. Do you think that first impressions matter? And first of all, do you know how long it takes to make a first impression? It takes about 10 seconds to make a first impression. And with a first impression, I mean that mental image we create when we meet someone. We think something about someone. And since we often refer to quite short meetings when we talk about each other, that could be of importance. So think about, how would you want others to remember you when you meet them? Show interest. Ask questions. Be kind. Be generous. That's really, I would say, the best tip when it comes to working with your personal brand and strengthening your brand. It's about the impact you make on others. So all those things that we already know, that we should be friendly, have eye contact, show interest, it's something we tend to forget in today's society. But I would just want to remind you about the importance of this. Because as I said, what we remember from a meeting is how that person made me feel. And if I had a good impression of who you are, I will also talk good about you. And that will pave the way for your career step as well. So I wish you all good luck. And if you want any support, if you're a student or an alumni from LUCEM, you're always welcome to contact us. And if you're an alumni at Lund University, I would advise you to contact your alumni network, which is a great network when it comes to being inspired, but also getting support and help when it comes to career-related matters. So, first of all, and also last, I want to say, believe in yourself and tell your story. Good luck.